I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, September the 29th, 2015. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu departed Israel for New York today. Netanyahu is set to address the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday. During his speech to the world body, the Prime Minister is expected to address Israel's hopes for peace with the Palestinians, as well as call attention to Palestinian incitement and continued rioting at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. He's also expected to address the Iran deal. Netanyahu will meet with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on Thursday and on Friday with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas will address the UN tomorrow. Among the international leaders who addressed the United Nations yesterday, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, who blamed U.S. support for Israel as part of the, quote, roots of today's wars, destruction, and terror. Rouhani said if we did not have the U.S. military invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq and the U.S.'s unwarranted support for the inhumane actions of the Zionist regime against the oppressed nation of Palestine, today the terrorists would not have an excuse for the justification of their crimes. U.S. President Barack Obama, in his speech to the UN yesterday, while not addressing Israel or the conflict with the Palestinians, did note that Iran, quote, continues to deploy violent proxies to advance its interests, and that if Iran chose a different path, that would be good for the security of the region, good for the Iranian people, and good for the world. Several Palestinian youths were arrested today on suspicion of stone throwing, among them a minor for allegedly throwing a stone at a taxi near the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem today, lightly injuring its passenger, another for throwing stones at a bus. 7 Palestinians were also arrested over their involvement in riots at the Temple Mount yesterday in Jerusalem. It was also cleared for publication today that the IDF forces, together with Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, and border police, arrested 2 Palestinians from the Arab village of Awarta on suspicion they set fire to a gas station in the West Bank 6 weeks ago. Investigations were ongoing in all cases. The Jerusalem Post reports that former National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Abe Foxman, has his sights set on a new position. Foxman, who led the ADL for 27 years, will be joining Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies as a non-resident research fellow. Upon the announcement, director of the INSS, Major General retired Amos Yadlin, said, "I always saw Abe Foxman as unofficial leader of the American Jewish community and a figure of international stature on the issues of human dignity and ethical conduct." Yadlin noted that Foxman's vast experience would be invaluable for helping to fight such things as the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions campaign, and other anti-Israel groups. Israel supporters are meeting in Jerusalem this week to discuss what can be done about the BDS movement and other threats facing the country. The Israel Allies Foundation kicked off their annual Jerusalem Chairman's Conference today. It is sponsored by the World Jewish Congress and the International Christian Embassy in Jerusalem. 22 parliamentarians from 18 countries around the world are attending, along with Israeli officials, which include President Reuven Rivlin and Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat. In addition to BDS, the conference will address the threat of a nuclear Iran and the status of Jerusalem. Conference participants will tour parts of the West Bank and meet with Arabs and Jews tomorrow. And on Thursday, a resolution will be drafted and signed by the world representatives, vowing to support Israel and to take a stance against anti-Israel movements. And college as well as high school students can receive training on how to deal with BDS on college campuses in a new program initiated by the Israel Action Network, or IAN. The IAN is a strategic initiative of the Jewish Federations of North America in partnership with the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. The new program is called Student Action Lab. It's a 3-hour in-depth training program on countering delegitimization efforts and increasing pro-Israel efforts on college campuses across the U.S. And staying with Jewish federations, the JFNA will join the Starkey Hearing Foundation, the New York Yankees, and the Minnesota Vikings in giving out hearing aids to aging Holocaust survivors, part of the Federation's National Holocaust Survivor Initiative. Holocaust survivor, author, and Nobel Peace Prize recipient Elie Wiesel will be in attendance at the event, which takes place at Yankee Stadium tomorrow evening. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, September the 29th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.